Picture this. You're at the park, leash in hand, and your dog is trotting along like he owns the place. Then a stranger walks up, totally normal person, calm, smiling, hand outstretched, and your dog just loses it. Full body freeze, low growl, maybe he plants his feet and refuses to move, or the complete opposite, he's launched himself at this person like they're a long-lost family member, tail spinning like a helicopter, making sounds you've never heard him make before. You've seen this. You've lived this. Most people think it's simple. Friendly dog, unfriendly dog, well-trained, poorly trained, shy, outgoing. We slap a personality label on it and move on. But neuroscience tells a completely different story, and once you hear it, you will never look at your dog the same way again. Okay, so here's the thing everyone gets wrong. The most common explanation you'll hear from neighbors, from trainers, even from some vets, is that a dog's reaction to strangers is about dominance or protection. He's guarding you. She's asserting herself. It sounds logical, right? Dogs are pack animals, hierarchy matters, stranger shows up, dog defends the pack. Except that explanation falls apart the second you actually look at the data. Because if it were purely about protection or dominance, dogs would behave consistently. They'd react the same way to every unfamiliar person, but they don't. The same dog who growls at a man in a baseball cap will roll over for a woman in a hoodie 30 seconds later. The same dog who ignored 10 strangers on Monday will fixate intensely on the 11th. There's no hierarchy logic that explains that kind of specificity. So if it's not dominance, if it's not simple training, if it's not just personality, then what is actually going on inside that brain? But here's where it gets really interesting. In 2019, researchers at the University of Vienna, Dr. Zsófia Virányi's team at the Clever Dog Lab, ran a series of behavioral trials studying how dogs process unfamiliar humans. What they found wasn't about aggression or submission at all. It was about social evaluation. Dogs weren't just reacting to strangers. They were reading them, actively, rapidly, almost forensically. In one key part of the study, dogs watched a stranger interact with their owner, either helping them, ignoring them, or actively refusing to help. And here's the gnarly part. Dogs consistently avoided accepting treats from the person who had refused to help their owner. They weren't trained to do this. Nobody told them. They just decided that person wasn't trustworthy. 61% of dogs in the study refused contact with the unhelpful stranger entirely, even when food was involved. Think about that. Your dog isn't just seeing a stranger. He's forming a moral opinion about that stranger based on how they treat you. He's not protecting you. He's judging for you. And here's the part nobody tells you. The biology underneath this is straight up wild, because this social evaluation isn't just behavioral, it's chemical. When a dog encounters a new person, the brain triggers a cortisol spike. That's the stress hormone, same one that hits you before a job interview or a first date. This is documented in research published by the journal Hormones and Behavior in 2021, drawing on data from the Hungarian ethology department at ELTE University. But what makes dogs neurologically fascinating is what happens after that cortisol spike, depending on what signals they receive from the stranger. If the stranger's body language, scent profile, and vocal tone all register as non-threatening, the dog's system doesn't just calm down, it actually triggers an oxytocin release. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, the same one that floods a mother's brain when she holds her newborn. So when your dog finally relaxes into a stranger, leans against their leg, lets them scratch behind the ears, that's not just tolerance. That's a full neurochemical bonding event happening in real time. The feedback loop goes cortisol spike, rapid threat assessment, signal clearance, oxytocin flood. Start to finish, in some dogs, that entire process can happen in under 90 seconds. Your dog isn't just deciding if someone is safe, he's deciding if someone is worth loving. Now zoom out, way out, like 15,000 years out, because this behavior didn't appear out of nowhere. The genetic divergence of dogs from wolves, the moment this whole relationship started, is estimated to have begun somewhere between 15,000 and 40,000 years ago, most likely in Central Asia or Europe, depending on which genomic study you follow. And the dogs that survived, the ones that got fed and protected and carried forward through generations, were not the most aggressive ones. They were not the most submissive ones either. They were the ones who could read humans accurately. There's an archaeological site in Israel called Ain Malaha, dated to around 12,000 years ago, where researchers found the remains of an elderly human buried with their hand resting on a puppy. One hand on a puppy 12,000 years ago. That image, that specific, quiet, heartbreaking image, tells you everything about what was being selected for. Not attack dogs, not guard dogs in the primal sense, companions. Animals wired across millennia to look at a human face and understand what they were feeling. This behavior wasn't random, it was selected for across millennia. But here's where it gets really interesting. And dead ass, this one broke my brain when I first read it. Here's the paradox. The dogs who are most socially bonded to their owners are often the ones who react most intensely to strangers. Not least intensely, most. A 2020 study out of Stockholm University found that dogs scoring highest on owner attachment scales were 43% more likely to display prolonged stranger assessment behavior, things like prolonged staring, circling, scent investigation, compared to dogs with weaker owner bonds. At first, that seems backwards. Secure dogs should be calmer, right? But think about it from an evolutionary standpoint. If you genuinely love someone, you care more about who they let in. A dog with a deep bond isn't on high alert because they're anxious. They're on high alert because they have something worth protecting. The most loving dogs aren't the most laid-back ones around strangers. They're the most careful ones. And most owners have no idea that what they're reading as anxiety is actually devotion wearing a different face. Now, I want to shift gears for a second, because this matters. There's a specific behavioral change around strangers that you need to know, because it can signal something serious. If your dog has always been reasonably comfortable with new people, not perfect, but manageable, and suddenly becomes intensely reactive, or, flip side, suddenly shows no reaction at all, that can be a medical red flag. According to the American Veterinary Medical Association, sudden behavioral changes in dogs, especially around social stimuli, are among the top early indicators of neurological issues, chronic pain, or early-stage cognitive dysfunction syndrome, which affects an estimated 28% of dogs between 11 and 12 years old, and over 68% of dogs aged 15 and older. A dog who stops caring about strangers isn't being chill. A dog who suddenly starts panicking at people she used to love isn't just going through a phase. If the change is sudden and unexplained, please talk to your vet. This knowledge could genuinely change or save your dog. So go back to the park with me. Your dog, the stranger, that full-bodied freeze, or that spinning helicopter tail launch. You thought you knew what was happening. You thought it was personality or training or just that's how he is. But what you were actually watching was 15,000 years of evolution compressed into a 90-second neurochemical event. Your dog firing up a social evaluation system so sophisticated it puts most human first impressions to shame. Running cortisol, running oxytocin, reading body language, reading how this stranger treats you, deciding in real time whether this person belongs in the circle of trust. He wasn't being difficult. He wasn't being silly. He was doing exactly what thousands of years of living alongside humans shaped him to do. He was watching out for you in the most ancient, most loyal, most biochemically profound way he knows how. Here's what I want to know. Drop it in the comments. Has your dog ever reacted to a stranger in a way that, looking back, turned out to be completely right? Like your dog clocked something about a person before you did. I read every single comment and I genuinely want to hear your stories. If this hit different, subscribe. We go this deep every single week. And next time, we're getting into why your dog follows you to the bathroom, and before you laugh, the science behind it is even stranger than you'd expect.